gorgeous. Oh. Good morning. Welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. We're getting out with the sun this morning, which is a habit that I need to pick up in summertime. The garden is looking beautiful. Actually, I had my Amish friend over yesterday and she was really surprised to see heads on our broccoli, but she made a comment about it and I think she's right. She said, Heather, are you gonna let them get bigger or are you gonna harvest them? I think you should harvest them because it looks like they're going to flower. She is correct. I will pop in a clip here of the broccoli from a couple weeks ago. It was smaller and it has gotten bigger. However, what I'm noticing is that the heads are really starting to separate when I move my finger across. You can see that these little flower buds, which is what they are not as compact, and that means that I need to harvest these, all of these. Now this broccoli is not as big as the broccoli that I've grown in years past. When I put this broccoli in the ground, I didn't amend it first. I just shoved them in the ground and really was gonna amend them later. I did amend them later, but I only amended them when I noticed that they were starting to head. And I think that might have been a little late. I did put down some bone meal, but that's okay. The beds have a little bit of amendment before I replace these broccoli plants with what's going in here. I'm gonna put some tomatoes here. Definitely still worth doing. We're gonna get at least one, maybe 2 dinners worth of broccoli out of this space, and it was very little work. I didn't have to deal with pests on this broccoli at all this year. All I'm doing is reaching down in, grasping the head and snapping it off like so. There are some little side shoots in here and I might leave some of these, but I'll grab the bigger ones like that. Well, if you clump them together, they look pretty massive, don't they? Ah, gorgeous bumblebee out here this morning. This is why I have a hard time weeding. It flew away from me, but whenever I come out and start to weed and I see bees, usually I stop weeding. Around the outside edge, I do weed inside the beds, but around the outside, it's not hurting anything. So yeah, here's our broccoli bounty. Not a ton, but hey, it's a meal. Absolutely still worth doing. It's more food than I had if I didn't plant it at all. And this little bed next to all the broccoli, I do have some cabbages. I don't know if these are going to head up. So what I did was I came through here and weeded. And I also threw in some of my tomato starts. These are really little. These are Heat Master tomatoes. I figured that these guys, I would allow them to take over and probably pull those if those don't do anything. And I did do quite a bit of weeding over here since the last garden tour as well. All of this that you see, this is the Kelway Golden Chamomile. And I weeded out quite a bit of purple dead nettle, and I think chickweed is what this is called down here. That there. Now this is sun starved, but I do believe that's chickweed. Both are edible, but you know, I gotta clean up the garden. And really after weeding, this should have gotten some mulch, but I'm out of it. I need to send my husband to the hardware store this week to get me some mulch. Our oregano has come back nice and lovely. I've had this here since 2019 and it has survived really well. Next door, some of our walking onions that I planted last year are really taking off. I'm happy to see them. Last week or a couple weeks ago, they didn't have any center stalks, but we've got some this week, and this is going to be really cool to watch what it does. This is another bed here that I'm really not sure is going to produce much in the way of purple cauliflower. That's what I have planted in here. This guy might, I guess we'll leave it, but really this bed is for dill. And I got lots of dill, and none of this was, I guess it was intentionally planted, but I didn't like put the seed down in the bed this year myself. I planted a lot of dill here last year with the intention of letting it go to seed so that I could hopefully establish some kind of perennial dill situation in here. Dill really isn't a perennial plant. It doesn't like survive by the rootstock, but it seeds itself so readily that might as well be considered perennial, if that makes sense. It'll just come back if you allow it to go to seed, and that's what I wanted to establish. So we do have some dill coming back in here. Actually, I've got dill coming up in a few places in the garden. There's a whole bunch over here next to this volunteer asparagus. My perennial space is a little bit of a chaos garden. I don't mind it. The main thing for this series of beds are the Carlos muscadine grapes. Last week we could barely see some little leaves poking through. Now we've definitely got some greenery going on. Beautiful. I need to grab my harvest basket because I think we need it. My asparagus is in full swing. When I'm harvesting asparagus, I will only harvest the asparagus stalks that are thicker than a pencil. And that is because really the smaller ones really aren't worth the squeeze, and those guys can be the ones that I allow to frond out and feed the crown. And really it's a sign that the plant isn't ready to be harvested. Like the crown, if I were to harvest some of these little guys over here, if the crown only has energy to push out these small stalks, I need to not be harvesting, because part of what feeds the crown isn't only the nutrition that's in the bed, but it's the sunlight. And these little asparagus spears, they are going to mature into essentially a fern, beautiful fronds, and those fronds are going to collect the sunlight and feed the crown. And if we don't allow that to happen, we're not going to get asparagus year after year. So this one here is a little thin. It's just at the pencil width. I will probably take it because I know that this is an established crown and it's right on the edge of what I'm looking for. This one is definitely thick enough, but I would like it to be a little bit longer, so I'm gonna leave that. We've got this purple one over here that is barely not ready. I'm gonna leave that. And of course, these little bits I'm going to leave. These are all asparagus as well, but very young, very new plants. A lot like the dill, the asparagus can spread pretty readily by seed. They do come back by the crown every year, but I have seen quite a few asparagus volunteers around my garden, and I'm gonna leave them. The elephant garlic down here is doing well. We will harvest this probably around June. And then check out the strawberries. Oh, they're so beautiful. We've gotten quite a lot of rain in the last little bit, and I did fertilize them. Here's some chickweed. I'm gonna pull that out. I believe it's chickweed. I know that there's things that you can do with it. I haven't ever done anything with it, but we have plenty of it, so if I get the itch to do something with it, I know that I have it at least this time of year. I just noticed, that little bitty plant right there, that's an asparagus, and this is a cilantro. None of these I planted. It's a chaos garden, but it amazes me. This here I don't want. This is Bermuda grass, and I do deal with it. It's nothing that really ruins my season, but I do like to get it out of here. Now I noticed upon pulling that I have this little tiny tomato plant down here. I have yet to see any of the yellow currant tomatoes that volunteer on my farm every year. That does look like it is one, so I'm gonna keep my eye on that because I love to see those volunteers. Anyway, back to the strawberries. Nothing harvestable right now. It is definitely still early in the strawberry season here, but we have all kinds of blooms. So this is setting up to be a really great strawberry season. Admittedly, the strawberries would probably do better if I managed them a little bit better. They are pretty closely packed, so they're gonna be competing for nutrition and sunlight and things, but it's something that I'm okay with. I'm okay with having a bigger spot that looks a little bit chaotic, that produces a little bit less. I also have some green stalks with strawberries in them. That's a little bit easier to manage. They go a little bit less wild in that kind of a situation, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Actually, over here, I do have a green stalk that doesn't have anything planted in here. I have been keeping it watered, but I need to get some soil in so that I can amend in here, and then there are going to be dwarf tomatoes going in here. In these U-shaped beds that we walked past and didn't talk about, I do have some plans. I'm just not there yet. I need to get some soil in this week, and I did actually plant some tomatoes over here. So I have 4 of the Heat Master tomatoes. These are determinate tomatoes. These guys will take off in no time. These blue arches are something that I put in here last year to try to cover some plants that I had in there, but the tomatoes don't need that, so I'll be pulling that out. Okay, so the tea garden is not really a thing yet. I put this bed over here. I've had this bed for quite some time. It just wasn't filled. But this week I filled it with some Jerusalem artichoke. So there's nothing coming up yet, but I will be like a helicopter mom to the garden looking for the little shoots to come up. Jerusalem artichoke is a little tuber. Actually, it looks like Mexican sunflowers when it comes up on the top part, but underneath there are these little tubers that look like potatoes. I've never had them before. I hear they can be quite farty. I'm really excited to have them. This whole space, ideally at some point, will be all perennials. We're obviously not quite there yet with things like broccoli and tomatoes, but I'm getting there. I do have some grapes on this trellis. These are a Concord variety. Looks like we may be starting to think about putting on some grapes here. See that? That is very exciting. I am not a grape expert. I don't know if I should be excited about that because it feels early, but I don't know. These are Sunbelt grapes. Actually, speaking of perennial things, I did kind of change up my plan for this area. This is the archway coming into the perennial garden. And I was going to put some tomatoes here. I think I have a different plan for my indeterminate tomatoes. And I really would like to put a perennial thing on here. And I know the beds are falling apart. We're gonna work with it this season. I'm just gonna mound up soil on the side that's falling apart less and then plant my maypops, also known as passion fruit. So we had some wild maypops pop up on the back of our property a couple of years ago, and I've been watching them, and we got quite a few little passion fruits last year, and I saved some seed. They've been in the refrigerator. I haven't started them yet. I've got a goal to do that this week so that I can put them here and have them coming back year after year. Where the maypops are right now in the back, my boy goats have access to it, and I don't expect them to really live for super long, and I'd like to be able to put them here where they're a lot safer. Oh, my garden kitty. Oh, hello, handsome. We're about to talk about an area that you have ravaged. Would you like to come with? One of the pests that I deal with most on my farm at all, but in the garden as well, are rodents. And so we have 4 outside cats. I love them, but they do get in the garden, and I knew that this was a possibility when I got them. But if I don't have cats in the garden, I have lots of rodents in the garden, and the rodent situation grosses me out more than the cat situation, and I can manage the cats a lot easier than I can manage rodents. So over here I have my potato bed. You can see that it's kind of dug up on this end. That's my cat's fault, unfortunately. I do have this potato plant and this volunteer squash, which is doing well. It died back a little bit. There was a leaf that got zapped by frost, but it put up a couple new ones, and we are clear of frost now, so it should be okay. But as far as the potatoes go, the ones on this end, see, they're coming up. Got one here, but down here the cats have been doing a lot of digging. They have been unearthing them. They've probably been doing other things that cats do, which isn't great, especially in a bed where you're going to be harvesting the tubers and eating the tubers. And so I've got some fencing that I'm going to just lay over this to help keep them out. There we go. And that will do the trick, at least for this bed. They do quite enjoy this bed as well. There's cilantro growing in here, kind of around the outskirts, so I'll just allow this. This can be my sacrificial bed underneath the elderberry. So far, I don't see any signs of the flowering umbrellas, but it will not be long. Look at how big that is. Here's me for size reference. We put these plants in 2020. And they have thrown up little shoots all over the place. So they do propagate by the root system. Here's our kitty graveyard. So garden kitty number 1, garden kitty number 2. Both of them were hit by cars. I went inside to grab my jar for you so you could see how we store our little harvest of asparagus that we get every day. I get a little bit of asparagus every day because it grows really, really fast. If you let it get too tall, it starts to get a little bit woody. So I try to harvest them when they're around 12-ish inches tall and store them in a jar just like a bouquet of flowers. Put it on the windowsill, and then it doesn't take long to amass enough to help supplement a meal. Now back here, we haven't seen this plant in a while. This is my key lime. I got these key lime bush plants last year. They're in this rolling bed. There's Monty again. Those leaves are spiky. Yeah, how does that feel? Get out. Get down. I figured the spikes would be a deterrent. I guess not. But this is our climate controlled shed where this plant did live all winter. I did not give it any supplemental light. It got some afternoon sun coming through a big window that I have in here. See, it was sitting here in the window. This gets some afternoon sun. So it does look a little bit peaked, and it is getting some sun this morning. Because it hasn't gotten a lot of sun, I don't want it getting blasted with full sun all day as it's transitioning to being back outside. And so it's gonna get some sun this morning, which is a milder type of sun. The morning sun is. And then my house is going to be blocking most of the sun today, and it'll get a little tiny bit of afternoon sun. And so hopefully we can not have all of the leaves scald and hurt the plant, because if a plant isn't used to having full sun, you really need to ease them into it. It did try to flower inside the shed, but we were still getting frost, so I didn't want to put it outside. I do have one little key lime on here, which honestly, yeah, that's what I thought. It was the right color to harvest. I don't think it's quite the time for harvest. So this guy's a little bit thrown off. I'm not obviously a citrus expert, but we'll do what we can with this and see if, with a little bit of fertilizing, if it'll flower again and set some more fruit. I did get quite a bit last year. It smells so good. I actually did just start to wake up my kefir. Kefir is a fermented milk product. It's a lot like yogurt, but it's drinkable. To use up this little tiny lime, I will probably use this to flavor some kefir. Not much new is happening in the kids' garden. This weekend, actually, it is the plan to get their watering oyas put back in the beds. And we're also gonna put in their plant starts in there. So their garden will have stuff going on really soon. We do have this, and this is garden related. It might look like a structure for some animals, but it's not. This is almost done. This is a rose arbor. I've been wanting some kind of climbing rose structure and climbing roses for many years. Roses can be a little bit difficult. They're not necessarily a beginning gardener plant, but there are some basic roses that are easy to care for, that are beautiful, and I did buy one, and we'll look at it. It's in the greenhouse right now, but eventually it will live out here. I'm gonna plant it on the west side. It's gonna climb up all over that and all over the top, and we're gonna have a picnic table under here. So it's going to be a nice shady place for us to sit, eat dinner, and then watch the goats graze. The idea of it, like just the idea of it, brings me so much joy and happiness to be able to do that. It's gonna be a few years, right? Like at least before the rose climbs enough to really provide a decent amount of shade, but I so look forward to it. Here are the picnic table supplies and some supplies. Levi's gonna start building a clubhouse with the kids too. Good morning, boys. You know, is it food time? I'll come give you food in a little bit. Yes, all the boys know it's food time. I figured we'd come over here and look at the goats, even though this is a garden video, just so you know what you're hearing in the background and why. It's food time, and I will feed them after I take the garden tour. You're gonna survive. You are, you will survive. I guess because we're here, we will walk down to the end of the lane where I did plant something. Eventually this space is going to be full of raised beds. That's a project that I'm working on this year. But I did manage to stick this one bed here last year, and I did plant some gherkin cucumbers. It's been a few days. I am expecting to see seedlings really soon. The Farmer's Almanac has our estimated last frost date around the 9th. It is an estimate for a reason. They recently changed the estimated last frost date. In years prior, it was around the 14th, so it really only got bumped up by around 5 days. But I still really have the 14th in my heart because I know that the possibility is pretty great that we will frost later than April 9th. Our frosts have passed us, but it has been pretty cold. And when it's cold enough at night, it does take a little bit longer for certain seeds to germinate. I bought this petunia at the local Amish greenhouse, and I stuck it here because I do have these praying mantis egg capsules. Can you see that? There's one there, and then there's one there. And when the praying mantis had laid the eggs up there, there was, you know, a lot of dead plant material from the Malabar spinach that I grew last year. up there, you know, helping protect the egg capsules and providing a spot for those praying mantises to go when they hatch. And I felt bad. Once I realized they were there, I felt bad for removing the plant. So maybe this will provide a place for the little praying mantises to take refuge, and then hopefully they will populate inside the greenhouse because I need them. We will start over here where I do have some more strawberries. This is the place where I can manage strawberries the best. I am considering getting another strawberry green stalk because this is a really great way to grow them. Quite a few blooms and small berries here. They're all green, but it won't be long. My little pepper that's over here, this is the only hot pepper we're growing this year. This is a jalapeno and habanero cross. It is finally starting to get some more leaves than just the seedling leaves. This might need some nutrition in here. However, peppers move kind of slow when it's cold at night. And like I mentioned before, it has been a little bit cold at night. So that might just be a temperature thing. I don't want to over fertilize. I'm pretty sure that's how we got such a bad aphid situation in the greenhouse last year. This is also a pepper area that does need some mulch. I have amended in here with a mushroom compost, and that mushroom compost has a really sandy medium to it, and when it is dry, it is dry, but these guys are good. Not very far down, the roots are nice and moist. So these are my jalapenos, and they are starting to finally take off. I did finally harvest the rest of the carrots out of this grow bag. And I did promise one of you viewers that I would talk about the grow bags more in the next garden tour. So here we are. What I have are 15-gallon grow bags. This is the size that I would recommend if you want to grow a decent amount of food in them. I get these from Epic Gardening, and because we live in such a windy area, I do get the lined grow bags. So these guys are not going to dry out as fast as the bags that are not lined. It's only lined with this, it's not like plastic or anything. It is breathable, but it's just got an extra layer of fabric on the inside. And this size grow bag fits an entire 2 cubic foot bag of soil with some room to spare. So you can put in some amendments, you can put in some mulch. And this size grow bag actually fits a tomato cage very well. Let me show you. So this here is a collapsible tomato cage. Epic Gardening also sells these. This is so great in order to save space. Look at that. So I can flatten it out and actually store it behind one of the doors here in the greenhouse. It's perfect. And then when I need it, boop, just open it up. And this is heavy duty. This is like the material that cattle panels are made out of. And these guys fit perfectly in the grow bag. Boop. Just like that. See, here we have a grow bag with a perfect amount of soil for a heavy feeding plant that fits a trellis with a perfect amount of structure to support a heavy plant. I really like my raised beds, my metal raised beds, and these are going to last longer than something like this, but these are far cheaper. They are going to last a good amount of time, especially for the price, and they're super simple to set up and just to get growing. I am going to get more of these, so I will link some of these products down below just in case you're interested in checking them out. I do have a coupon code with Epic Gardening. Make sure you put that in for a discount. Now, what I grew in here last were carrots. I actually harvested 4 times out of this bag. Lots of carrots. It was great. The last harvest we roasted. So good. And I would like to actually reclaim this to plant my stevia. I just bought these stevia plants at a local greenhouse, and I would like to get them out of their pots and establishing in here. Wow, look at the root system on that. Definitely ready to stretch those roots, that's for sure. Look what I just dug out of here. I think that's a Japanese beetle. What do you think the chickens will think? I do have a solution for that, and it's beneficial nematodes. I have them. They're in my refrigerator right now. I got a triple, it's called Triple Threat, I think, from Arbico Organics. So it's 3 different types of beneficial nematodes that will help control pests like grubs and things in many different areas. So I'm going to spray them in all my growing spaces to help take care of things like that. And then I am actually going to put the beneficial nematodes underneath my rabbit cages to help control the fly populations. I'll probably talk about that more in my weekly vlog coming up this week, because that's when I'm going to be spraying. Chuk, 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 chuk. Chuk, 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 chuk. Some of them know what that means. Here we go. Come on. This is literally the early bird gets the worm. Who's gonna be first? Chuk, 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 chuk. That's my chicken right there. Doop. Oh, she got it. See the purple leg band? That's my chicken. Good girl, Astrid. That's one of my old girls. Well, she's not really that old. I've had her since 2019. I will be putting mulch in this grow bag too once Levi picks it up this week. I have a couple more bags that have carrots. There's that one and then this one. They were planted at different times so that I could get successions of harvests, and this is the one that we will be doing next. It'll be a couple of weeks, so maybe next garden tour we'll see what that's all about. But yeah, back to the beneficial nematode conversation. I do have a lot of onions that I'm growing in the greenhouse. Some of them I have planted 3 to a planting hole, and some of them I just have 1, you know, per hole. That's because someone told me that you could actually increase your poundage of onions for the space by planting them that way. So normally you'll plant 1 onion every 4 inches, but if you plant 3 onions every 6 inches, you're supposed to get more weight. You're gonna have smaller onions, but you'll have more of them. And really all I'm gonna do is chop them up and freeze them and freeze dry them. I am actually planning on sauteing and canning some as well, but I don't need big giant storage onions, so I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. But there are little pests called onion maggots, and I would really like to avoid those, and that's where the beneficial nematodes will come in here in the greenhouse, and also with whatever other random grubs are hanging around. So on this first arch we do have the petunias. I had planted some contender bush beans, and I think that they got kind of attacked by pill bugs. There's quite a lot of damage on some of these leaves, but also I'm seeing some puckering. That could be still from pill bug damage. This could be disease. Some of the plants don't even have leaves at all. These are not going to survive. I'll have to replant them. The beans that I put over here are the exact same beans from the exact same seed packet. I think that they're not dealing with pill bug damage for whatever reason, and they look really good. So because these ones look really great from the same seed packet, these guys look less great. I'm gonna say that it's bugs and not disease. Some diseases can come in on the seed, like mosaic virus can come in on the seed, and that's what I thought maybe was going on, but I don't think so. I think it's that this bed has a little bit more bug pressure. I did plant some tomatoes in this bed for this trellis. My son had wanted to buy some Sweet Million tomatoes for his garden, and the cell pack was so inexpensive to get 6 of them, so I decided he'd have 2 in his garden because his trellis is only so big, and I would put the other 4 right here. So we're gonna grow some Sweet Million on this side. On this side I do have some Malabar spinach that volunteered, so we'll be having that again this year, and that's gonna be kind of more towards the front. And I put my cucamelons over here to grow on this side of the trellis. So there's 1 cucamelon there, and there's 1 cucamelon down here that I want to make sure gets a good amount of light. I just transplanted these guys over. They're really tiny. They take a while to get going, but once they get going, these are going to be amazing. On this side of that same trellis, I do have lots of elephant garlic. It looks like we had a really good, not germination rate, but establishment rate. The peach trees are doing well with the alyssum underneath. How gorgeous is that? Oh my gosh. I have not come through and really taken off the amount of peaches that I need to take off. This is heartbreaking, but it's necessary. You really don't want your fruit trees to try to mature all of this fruit because it's going to be really heavy and it's going to take a lot out of them. So they say that you should take off enough fruit to where you can have 1 peach growing about every 5 inches. That's what I'm told. That's what I did last year and it worked well. I won't do all of that today, but you can see the little peaches are getting big, so it is due for it. On this middle trellis here, I have some spaghetti squash that is doing very well. It's finally starting to really take off. Lots of big leaves. Probably next garden tour, they will have started to climb the trellis. There's 4 plants here and 4 plants here. Look at how big this one is. Gorgeous. Oh, this is gonna be amazing. Got some garlic on this side, and there is some garlic here. This line is not taking off as fast for whatever reason, And on this side of the trellis, I do have some melons. These are armpit melons, a thing of my own creation, and they are getting some good leaves on them. So those guys probably by the next garden tour will be climbing as well. I had planted lima beans over here and only one came up and it promptly died. So I think maybe something was up with that seed. I need to replant over here. What you see over here is kale trying to come back from the little stumps from the kale that I took out from winter time. Look, there's a bean. And look, a pill bug. Hey, I wonder what happened in here. Do you guys happen to know what happened? Pill bugs can be a problem. I think they're also called sow bugs. I might be wrong there, but there's a bunch of different names for these little critters and they can be such a pain in the butt. I have this stuff. I bought a big one. Kills earwigs, cutworms, sow bugs, pill bugs, slugs, and snails. And it is OMRI approved for organic use. I just ran inside for a new battery and I saw that I had a comment about planting garlic in spring. And I wanted to address it because I think it's a common misconception, but not without like education. There's a reason that a lot of people do plant garlic in fall time. And that's because most varieties of garlic need to be cold stratified. They need to have that feeling of being cold in order to trigger them for the proper growth cycle the next year. Not every garlic variety is like this, like the elephant garlic, for example. I don't ever put this in the refrigerator or anything. I always plant at the same time every year, and I'm always able to harvest in summertime. And with the other garlic varieties that I've planted, this one right here, I don't know what the variety is, but I always buy it at our local Amish store, and I always plant it as soon as I start to see it sprouting in the store. And it's stored in the refrigerator at the store, and that's essentially like being underground all winter, if that makes sense. So as long as you store your garlic cool, you can plant it in the springtime. Planting it in the ground is just acting like a refrigerator over winter, and that's great. That works. My refrigerator is actually colder than our winters, to be honest. Yeah, I planted these not that long ago. They're going to grow very well, and we will harvest this summer. And so I think that that's great to know that that is an option. I recently came through here and did weed in the onion beds. They're looking a little bit wild and crazy. It has been pretty windy here, but it's also been warm, so I haven't been able to shut down the sides of the greenhouse or everything in here is gonna cook. However, everything in here does look like it's doing quite well. We've got some red onions down here. And all of these will come out in summertime as well, mid to end summer. We'll see what happens with them. So far, so good though. The herb green stalk is doing very well. Lush and lovely. Look at this. I've harvested a lot from the dill, and this is the plant that's the most vigorous in here. These are some of the plants that the kids bought for their garden. The lunchbox mix pepper. There's 2 of them right here. And then this is some more of those sweet million. And I did have this guy. This is a volunteer tomato that I yanked out of one of the beds here as I was weeding. And this little guy looks like it might be one of those yellow currant tomatoes. So I decided to save it so that I could baby it. Here are some of my other starts. Admittedly, these guys don't look super great. They haven't grown a whole ton. There's a lot of purpling on the underside of the leaves. This is a nutrition deficiency, and I'm not quite ready to plant these out in their permanent spaces. So what I will probably do is dilute some fertilizer down and then just water them with that, just to give them a little bit of a boost. They're just not the best color, and they're not growing as well as I'd like. I did have a lot of success with the Coast of Maine soil with my wintertime starts. This is the first time I will have started them with my spring and summer starts. It looks like it maybe doesn't have enough nutrition for this type of plant, which is fine. I can recognize that and I can supplement. This is something I actually bought recently. It has pink flowered strawberry. Isn't that so beautiful? Got some strawberries coming on. Look at it. I need to get this plant really separated. There's quite a few in this little pot, and I would like to give them a little bit more space to stretch their legs. So that's another project for me this week. And then I have some rosemary that I bought, as well as some lavender. So I've got lots of garden projects to do this week. For right now, I need to go feed those poor baby goats that are starving. I'm a little bit late getting to them this morning, but I hope you enjoyed the garden this week. I hope things are growing well where you are. I'll see you guys again soon.